Hello and welcome. I am Thomas Porteous and you're watching the World Report on NewsX World. Today we're covering the unfurling situation in the Middle East, where Iran's supreme leader has been killed and tensions and hostilities continue to escalate. We are getting new information coming in as the clock ticks, so let's go to our first update. New explosions were heard today across the Gulf cities of Dubai, Abu Dhabi, Doha and Manama as Iran continues its retaliatory actions for a second day. According to reports, local residents have reported multiple blasts in Dubai and heard loud bangs in Abu Dhabi. Smoke was also observed at the Crowne Plaza Hotel in Manama, where officials have reported material damages and no casualties. Joining us in this discussion to talk about, of course, this unfurling situation and Iran's retaliation is Ambassador Veena Sikri, a former diplomat. She joins us live from New Delhi. Ambassador, thank you so much for joining us. The United States here, of course, was aware that Iran would respond and it would aim for its military bases, which are situated in these countries, the likes of Bahrain, the likes of the UAE, among others. We are now seeing these countries have to go under lockdown. Alarms are ringing out across the major cities. What more can you tell us about the fact that these regional countries in the Gulf and others alike are now being dragged into a conflict, or being affected at least by a conflict that they didn't start?
Well, yes, it is a completely, I think, unexpected situation in that sense that nobody would have expected that the world's busiest airport in Dubai would be shut down like this after having been hit, according to the news that came in. So this has caused major disruptions all over the world. And I think that other Gulf countries, whether it's Bahrain, Kuwait, Qatar and others, would not have expected these attacks on civilian targets as well. So we have not seen much reaction from the governments of these countries, although we know that there are all these difficulties that the citizens are facing in these countries. But we do know that the situation in the Straits of Hormuz are very dire, although the straits have not been formally closed down. But the insurance companies have refused to give any further insurance coverage for ships sailing in that region. So de facto, it means that the Straits of Hormuz is no longer carrying energy supplies to different parts of the world.
Yes.
So I think that the effect on world economic activity, on the energy security of many countries, is certainly very vast. And because of Dubai airport closing down, it has sent shock waves. The world's busiest airport closing down has sent shock waves through the world of civil aviation and affected communication, business deals, movement for hundreds of countries, and there's no knowing when it will end. But I do not see any statement from the government of UAE about how they are responding to this, whether they are talking to the USA, whether they're talking to Iran, and how they see the next steps. What we have heard today is that Israel is continuing its attacks on military targets in Iran, and a lot of the people are being asked to move away from the military targets. But whether the Iranian air defense systems have been able to prevent any such attacks, whether the air defense systems are still operating, or whether they have been shut down by the Israeli attacks, this is not very clear today. Certainly for us in India, it's a very major factor, because we know that there are millions of Indians living in the Gulf. There are 3 million in the Emirates alone, 3 million in Saudi Arabia, and 500,000 each in other countries as well. So we have a very large number of people of Indian origin living and working in these countries.
Ambassador, I want to go back. When we were seeing those protests at the start of this year, we saw Donald Trump at the height put out a Truth Social post saying that help is on the way. That help never came from the United States, and many people were speculating and reporting that these Gulf countries were the reason for that help not arriving, I say. Because that they feared that they were indeed going to be subject to Iranian retaliation. Now that has happened, how might this affect the diplomatic relationships between the United States and these Gulf countries that have been struck, and of course those countries that are in the Abraham Accords as well?
This is a very important question, no doubt about it. But I haven't seen any formal response from these countries. I can only take it that there's a lot of behind-the-scenes activity going on. Now, the behind-the-scenes activity, which these countries would have initiated talks with the USA, are they asking the USA to stop the bombings? Because it's Israel now that's the main country doing the bombings right now, not the USA. But are they asking the USA and Israel to continue, with the destruction of Iran's military capabilities? There's a lot of uncertainty on all these questions. Each individual country is adjusting at best it can in the region, but there is no indication of a kind of a collective response from these countries, a collective interest in stopping the hostilities, and in saying for the first time ever that civilian targets in these countries have come under destructive attacks, which have actually impacted. People have died in Abu Dhabi and in Dubai. I think only one each, but many have been injured. So this is a completely new situation.
Yes.
For the countries of the Gulf. And we don't know what their reaction is. It's a matter of great uncertainty, actually. I'm sure there must be behind the scenes very, very frenetic correspondence and talks and discussions. But what is the outcome? I was hoping maybe you'd have some news for us on that.
Ambassador, hopefully we bring it very soon. Do stay with us as we turn over to our next story. The Iran's Revolutionary Guard announced that they had launched a new wave of attacks, calling them the 7th and 8th waves of Operation Honest Promise 4, following Israeli and US strikes that killed Iran's supreme leader. The Guards did not specify the targets of the attack, but described it as a large-scale operation against the enemy. Joining us now to discuss this is Mark Sutherland, a geopolitical commentator, joining us live from London. Mark, thank you very much for joining us here on the broadcast. We are, of course, and we did get that huge development last night that the supreme leader, Ayatollah Ali Khamenei, had in fact been killed. But the Iranian Revolutionary Guard Corps still very much remains active with huge capabilities, especially in the Middle Eastern region. What more can you tell us about the IRGC, its capabilities, particularly in the Middle East region, as it's launched its 7th and 8th wave of attacks against the United States bases and Israel?
Thomas, good to be with you again and your esteemed guest. It was very noted, and I'm just noting the former ambassador's comments, as you have talked about, in regard to the fact that Iran has actually attacked 8 countries in over the last 48 hours. And as we've said, regionally, UAE, etc. And one comment that came out of esteemed General Avivi of IDSF was saying that they were quite surprised to see that so early on. And what does that say in regard to the Iranian regime? Because it seems that they're immediately trying to, in my humble opinion, to bring in other countries into this. And remember also, we have seen even UK planes, even though they say they have not participated in attack, defending those other countries. Thomas, the bottom line is this, in my humble opinion: there is a lot of bravado that will come out of the Iranian regime. We are still waiting for a lot of assessments. We know that, as you've just said, that the has been killed, along with other members of the regime. Military were also taken out on his compound extremely early on when the Israelis dropped bombs in that situation. And now, as you've said, they've appointed a leader, and it's also, as I'm watching other feeds, is then saying we're going to strike back with even more force. I am fully aware that there are constantly, at times, there are alerts that are going on over Israel, and people are going to their bombshells quite rightly. So there's lots of assessments that we are still waiting for, and the rockets are still firing.
Yes.
And how many they have, because they've been taking delivery from the allies that support them. We're going to wait and see. Thomas, to you.
Yes. Mark, stay with us once again as we turn over to another update coming out of that ongoing situation. Israel's Defense Minister Israel Katz described the killing of Iran's supreme leader, the Ayatollah Ali Khamenei, as a turning point in the ongoing war with the Islamic Republic. Katz emphasized Khamenei's leadership in orchestrating efforts against Israel, calling him the architect of the axes of evil surrounding the nation. He further highlighted Khamenei's uncompromising stance against Israel and stated that his elimination, along with other senior Iranian officials, marks a significant shift. Katz made these remarks during a security assessment with top military and security officials, as stated in a statement from his office. We have updates coming out from the ground. According to Israel's emergency service, Magen David Adom, a barrage of missiles launched from Iran caused multiple casualties in central Israel, including a young girl in serious condition. The missile fire struck the Beit Shemesh region, and since the operation was launched, Israel has confirmed 2 deaths and 456 injuries from Iranian attacks. Reports indicate that 86 people remain hospitalized, 1 in serious condition. A rocket also hit central Tel Aviv, causing significant material damage. Ambassador Secret and Mark Sutherland join us in this conversation. I want to start off, Ambassador, with the Defence Minister's comment, calling this a turning point in the ongoing war with the Islamic Republic. We've seen further previous operations, not exactly like this one, but one could cite even Nicolas Maduro's capture. The president was captured along with his wife. The leader is taken out, but the government still remains there. We, of course, know about the Iraq War, a war which lasted a couple of months on paper, but of course spanned almost 10 years. Is Israel's defense minister jumping the gun a bit here in terms of his comments, calling this a turning point in the conflict? Apologies, Ambassador, I believe you're muted.
I think the retaliation by Iran, obviously from the details you have provided, they have breached the dome that Israel has always felt would be protecting them from any incoming missile or drone attack. But this seems to have been breached, and you've spoken about a large number of people having been injured and some having been killed and taken to hospital. Now, certainly the reaction within Israel to that would be disconcerting, but the statement by Israel's defense minister seems to show that they're going to continue with the attacks on Iran. And President Trump also, in his statement, let it be known that for the rest of this week, for the coming week, that these attacks are going to continue. So I don't see an early end to this unless they feel that they have completely disabled Iran's not only the air defense capabilities, but also their very missile sites, as well as what they were thinking of as their potential nuclear sites. So I think it does not look to be something that will have a quick end, but this is very difficult because for all the countries in the region, they having come under the attack for the first time, because it's now no longer USA, Israel, and Iran. It is a much larger number of countries involved, and they are also suffering casualties. There's also been major disruptions in shipping, major disruptions in civil aviation communications. So I think this is a major strike. Probably tomorrow morning when the markets open, we are going to see the impact, what the markets feel, the stock markets, what they feel about this. I think they're expecting a jump in the oil prices and a fall in the stock markets figures all across the world. So the long-term economic impact of this certainly cannot be ruled out. I do not know, that one would have expected that the president of that the defense minister of Israel would have given some more details about the outcome of their attacks on Iran. But there are not many details coming in about that. That, what we do know, of course, as you said, that the Supreme Leader Khomeini has been eliminated, a number of others, including his family members and other leaders. But the Iranian government has responded with what they call an acting Supreme Leader who has been put in. And we do not know what the decisions of the acting Supreme Leader and the IRGC seem to be to continue the retaliation. So this is their response. But from the Israel government, there are no details about, they're going to continue the attacks, what is the outcome of these attacks. I do know that from within Iran, some people did say that, the attacks are confined to military targets, and they're telling the civilian people move away from military targets and not be anywhere near them. They're virtually announcing this. So if the outcome of those military attacks is successful, then they would be debilitating Iran's capacity to respond. But we do know that Iran has a very, very large number of missiles. Whether they able to take them to secure areas, and whether they've been able to launch them from these secure areas without detection from Israeli capabilities, then the reaction from Iran is continuing. And that certainly indicates that the hostilities will continue for some time more, and the impact is going to be equally disastrous on the economy, on energy security, and many other aspects.
Ambassador Sikri, thank you so much for taking the time here on the broadcast with us. Pleasure to talk to you. Mark, I pose the same question to you. Donald Trump, of course, campaigned against the United States getting involved in foreign wars. Does this risk being one of America's forever conflicts, if the right steps are not taken, possibly even larger than the likes of Iraq?
I note all your previous comments and before this broadcast in regard to Iraq, on what had gone on there and how things had unfolded there. We remind ourselves over here of the sexed up dossier, but it was also the fact that we actually put boots on the ground. I do not see that happening. And I note your comments in regard to forever wars. I don't actually think that is what the American administration want at all. How this folds out, people could then accuse me of saying, well, this could prolong. Just note a few things. That Israel is targeting, and America, they are targeting military installations in Iran, where the Iranians are targeting civilian attacks around, of course, in Israel and other countries. So let's just note that. I don't see any situation where the Americans are saying we're going to put boots on the ground in the context of Iraq. President Trump and Prime Minister Netanyahu have made it very clear over the last 24 hours in their conversations, which is to say to the Iranian people, this is your moment. This is your moment to take your country back. We go back to 1979. And just note this, let's not forget that any number between 35,000 and maybe even up to 100,000 of dear Persian citizens of Iran have been murdered on the streets of Iran by this despicable, in my humble opinion, regime. That is what they have done. Now, we have seen on X elsewhere the celebrations by the Iranian people of the Ayatollah's death. Now I understand there seems to be a restriction again on what we can then get out of Iran. That has to be verified. I am sure. Just finally, Thomas, the calculations within the American administration and what this looks like, and as soon as people, the critics of President Trump, who were even once his supporters, will turn around and go, "Look, this is a forever war." I'm sure that all those conversations, decisions have been had, and also in regard to Israel. In regard to Israel, the comments that I see through contact, the answer is that we are prepared to go through this and this pain to then see the people of Iran, Persian people, freed, and to have the freedom and the liberty that they deserve, that was then taken away from them in the Red-Green Axis in 1979. This is all unfolding, and Thomas, as you and I were not privy to the conversations that are going on behind closed doors, but we don't want this to escalate. And on a personal opinion, I don't see this doing that in regard to the other 7 countries that the Iranians have bombed. Thomas, to you.
Mark, do stay with us. We have another update for our viewers. Gulf countries will convene on Sunday evening for an online meeting of GCC foreign ministers to discuss a unified response to Iran's ongoing missile strikes. The meeting follows a second day of Iranian attacks, retaliating after US and Israeli airstrikes killed Iran's supreme leader. The meeting will focus on Iran's aggression towards the Gulf states and the need for coordinated action. Due to airport closures, the discussions will be held virtually, as confirmed by 2 Gulf diplomats who requested anonymity. The aim of this meeting is to establish a unified strategy for addressing the escalating situation in the region. Mark, what do you think these foreign ministers will be discussing? What kind of action do you think they will take? And possibly keep your answer short as we're running out of time.
I hear you. Very often in this situation, Thomas, what is said publicly is very different to what is said privately behind closed doors. We've seen that over the last 2.5 years in regard after the 7th of October. There'll be a lot of that, and it's going to be very interesting on a personal level. I actually just see the fact that they will look at defending their own countries, but I do not see certain aspects escalating, but defense will be the number one word and thing that they wish to deal with in this situation. Thomas, to you.
Yes, Mark, do stay with us once again. We have some further updates. According to Israel's emergency service, a barrage of missiles launched from Iran killed at least 4 people in central Israel. This new death toll has not been confirmed by the Israeli government as of now. We have further news. An airstrike in central Iraq has killed 4 fighters from the former paramilitary coalition Hashed al-Shababi, now part of Iraq's regular army. The attack occurred at their base in Diyala province, according to security officials and a Hashed source. Additionally, 8 other fighters were wounded in the strike, according to reports. Popular mobilization forces confirmed the deaths, referring to the fighters as martyrs, and reported the attack targeted their base in Diyala. Hundreds of ships are stranded on either side of the Strait of Hormuz, according to shipping data. At least 150 tankers, including crude oil and liquefied natural gas vessels, have dropped anchor in the open Gulf waters beyond the Strait of Hormuz. Dozens more were stationary on the other side of the choke point. The movements came after US and Israeli strikes on Iran plunged the region into a new war. The tankers were clustered in open waters off the coasts of major Gulf oil producers, including Iraq and Saudi Arabia, as well as LNG giant Qatar. Meanwhile, UK Maritime Trade Organisation says that a ship in north of Oman and the east of the strait has been struck by an unknown projectile. Authorities are now currently analysing the situation and controlling the fire. Mark, a lot of developments there really showing us how much volatility has been sparked from this situation. Can I just get your reaction to all that information that has just been relayed to the viewers? Of course, the Strait of Hormuz, as well as further strikes inside Israel as well.
We have to remember how Iran, for many, many years, has then also created their ring of fire in regard to Hamas, Hezbollah, and the Houthis, etc. So we have to bear all of that in mind. And also, as you've just raised, with the Strait of Hormuz, and of course, we're all aware of the oil traffic and other traffic that goes in there that then feeds the rest of us with, in various parts of the world, with oil and fuel that people need. In regard to black gold, the issue is, Thomas, as you've said, and I've just stated earlier, the Iranian regime. This is against the Iranian regime, not the Persian people of Iran. The key thing is they would have war gamed this, hence why they have been firing missiles, in my humble opinion, to 7 other countries, and then creating the chaos that they want to in the Strait of Hormuz and all the economic chaos that then comes from that. And that is why, at the end of the day, the action has been taken. If we go back to 1979 and the overthrow of the Shah and the red-green axis and all the ramifications of that for many, many years, and also Iran when it's going death to Israel and death to America. This is the ideology that we are dealing with and what they believe in, and also when they've taken that ideology around to many countries, and since 1979 after the hostage taken, and then from that all the American military and soldiers that they have then bombed and taken out as well, and many other people around the world from various countries. This is the reality of what we are dealing with, but also they want the ripple effect of disruption. That again is at the center of their ideology. Thomas, to you.
Mark Sutherland, thank you so much for taking the time and joining us here on the broadcast. Great pleasure to speak to you as always. OPEC Plus has reportedly announced a larger than expected increase in oil production quotas following recent and Israeli strikes on Tehran that triggered Iranian retaliation across the Middle East. According to reports, the group, which includes major oil producers like Saudi Arabia and Russia, as well as several Gulf states affected by Iran's strikes, have agreed to increase production over 200,000 barrels per day. The adjustment is set to take effect in April and has been attributed to a steady global economic outlook, although the statement did not directly mention the ongoing Iran conflict. Further updates coming from around the world. Pakistan's Prime Minister Shehbaz Sharif has extended condolences on the death of Iran's supreme leader, the Ayatollah Ali Khamenei. He also expressed concern over what it described as a violation of international law, noting that it is an age-old convention that heads of state or government should not be targeted. More reactions, this time from the Vatican. Pope Francis has expressed deep concern over the ongoing violence in Iran and the Middle East, urging an end to the quote-unquote spiral of violence triggered by the recent US-Israeli strikes on Iran. In his remarks, the Pope stressed that stability and peace cannot be achieved through threats or weapons, but only through responsible dialogue. Calling for moral responsibility, the Pope warned that continued violence could lead to an irreparable mechanism. He urged diplomacy to play its role in promoting peace and justice, reminding the world of the urgent need for peaceful coexistence. Let's listen into the statements.
Con profonda preoccupazione quanto sta accadendo in Medio Oriente e in Iran in queste ore drammatiche. La stabilità e la pace non si costruiscono con minacce reciproche né con le armi che seminano distruzione, dolore e morte, ma solo attraverso un dialogo ragionevole, autentico e responsabile. Dinanzi alla possibilità di una tragedia di proporzioni enormi, rivolgo alle parti coinvolte la...
We have some further breaking news. Saudi Arabia's foreign ministry has summoned the Iranian ambassador following accusations that Tehran targeted its territory with strikes. The ministry condemned Iran's actions, describing them as brazen attacks against the kingdom and several other countries in the region. This escalation comes amid heightened tensions between Iran and Gulf nations, further intensifying the already volatile situation in the region. Well, that's all that we have time for this hour. Keep watching NewsX World for more international news updates.